Ratchet and Clank Ripped Apart was one of my most anticipated games of this year, ever since it was first revealed at the PS5 showcase last June. Damn, that was already a year ago. I was a big fan of the 2016 Ratchet and Clank game, and I was excited to see what Insomniac had in store next to the Lombax. I'm gonna be honest, I haven't played any of the PS2 or PS3 games. The only ones I've played are the 2016 game and Ripped Apart. However, I do plan on playing those games one day, considering how much I've been loving the franchise. Speaking of which, for any Ratchet veterans out there, y'all got any recommendations for Ratchet games to get on there? Let me know in the comments or just DM me on some other social media. Definitely not a shameless plug. Okay, thank you, bye. Now, did Ripped Apart meet my expectations? Yes, it did. In fact, I think Ratchet and Clank Ripped Apart is currently the best PS5 exclusive. I mean, what else it got? Sackboy? More like Mario 3D World. Astro's player. No, this game isn't bad. I mean, ew, what is this baby shit? I play manly games like The Last of Us, Doom, and Parappa the Rapper. Returnal? I mean, well, this game is... It's really good. I mean, who cares? There's no blood and gore and swearing. This isn't a real game. Now, to be real here, I don't see this throne lasting too long. I mean, that new Horizon game, though. Ooh, and that new Deathloop game. And don't forget Kenna Bridge of Spirits. Oh, and don't forget the new God of War. Man, it must really suck being an Xbox player, huh? And I mean, to give them some credit, they have Skype. And more storage in the PS5, but in getting off topic, let's talk about Ratchet and Clank Ripped Apart. The story of Ripped Apart follows not only Ratchet and his buddy Clank, but this new Lombax in another dimension named Rivet, which, don't mind me, I'm just gonna,
What are you doing?
Drugs. After an incident involving Dr. Nefarious getting a hold of the Dimensionator, Ratchet and Clank along with Nefarious travel to another dimension. But during this process, Ratchet ends up getting separated from his pal Clank, but soon after, Clank meets another Lombax named Rivet, who teams up with Clank along with Ratchet to put a stop to Dr. Nefarious' plans and fix all the dimensions. You know, honestly, I thought the story in this game was a pleasant surprise. My expectations weren't that high because the story in Ratchet and Clank 2016 was... not the best, but I really enjoyed the story here. I really wish I could talk about how the characters developed throughout the course of the game since I liked it so much, but since we're keeping this review spoiler free, I'm not going to get into all that so you can experience it for yourself. Now, why don't I talk about the new characters? First, we have the poster child of this game, Rivet. Rivet is a pretty good character in my opinion. Heck, I might have enjoyed her more than Ratchet considering how much time we spend with her. She's Ratchet's dimensional counterpart, but at the same time, the two have a few differences. She's a lot more confident than Ratchet, I guess. She reacts to action a lot quicker than Ratchet does, and overall, she just acts a lot more capable than Ratchet. Not trying to diss on Ratchet though, I enjoyed his character too, but it's pretty obvious Rivet was the main focus here. Despite their differences in their character, they're both pretty much exactly the same gameplay wise. Now I don't think this is a major issue since it makes the gameplay more consistent, but I think this was kind of a missed opportunity. Like they could have maybe had Rivet have a bit of a different moveset, or maybe some weapons that are exclusive to her or Ratchet. Changes like those would have made her stages more memorable as her stage rather than just the stage itself with her. That's not to say I didn't enjoy playing as Rivet, I definitely did. In fact, I might have enjoyed playing as her more than Ratchet, mostly because I found more of the better stages were on Rivet's side. The cast of supporting characters I also found to be pretty good. I really liked a lot of their personalities and also thought it was cool how some already existing side characters had their own dimensional counterparts. Even some of the minor characters you only find on like one mission I found to be quite amusing, like the one in the aquarium level, Junkbot. I really liked his personality. He's kind of like that one kid who's really desperate to be your friend and thinks that you're both the bestest of friends, when in reality you just want to shout,
"Shut up, you stupid bitch!" Hi-ya!
Before we go any further in this review, there's one thing I need to mention, and that's this game's presentation. Oh my god. I think this is one of, if not the most beautiful game I've ever seen. It may not look that good, but trust me, once you start playing, you'll be mesmerized. As for the other functions of the DualSense controller, yeah, the adaptive triggers and haptic feedback here feel great. Not as good as Returnal, but I really like the feedback here of getting to feel the weight of everything, if that makes sense. There are even some weapons that utilize the adaptive triggers, like this one where holding the trigger halfway will pull up a shield while fully holding it down will release a blast of energy. Also, to comment on actual performance, yeah, this game runs very smoothly. I played on Performance RT, which is basically just normal performance mode, 60 FPS and all, but with added ray tracing, which I believe is still in a smaller resolution than Fidelity, but I didn't mess around with that one, and the lower resolution was more than enough for me. And I also wasn't able to notice any frame drops or experience any crashes. Oh yeah, by the way, anyone remember when video games had loading screens? Yeah, me neither.
Look at his lips!
On top of the technical performance, I love some of the level themes. Sargasso, Nefarious City, Blazar, Savali were some of my favorites. And trust me, there will definitely be some jaw-dropping vistas to absorb in this game. The 2016 game had some decent level aesthetics, but not found to be as interesting as the one presented here. Oh yeah, photo mode returns, which is pretty much the same from the Spider-Man game since, you know, same studio and all. Although there's no selfie mode, which is reasonable since I don't think cell phones exist in Ratchet's world. But that means now I can't take a selfie while being held hostage when a bomb is about to explode. Yes, I'm being serious. There's a mission in Spider-Man PS4 where you play as MJ and everyone's held hostage, fearing for their lives. Meanwhile, you can just whip out your phone and take a selfie. Now let's get into the meat and bones of this game. The gameplay. Ratchet and Clank Rift Apart is an action platformer with an emphasis on third-person shooting, unlike the 2016 game, which is just a third-person shooter sprinkled in with some platforming. One of my main issues with Ratchet and Clank 2016 was that it called itself a platformer, but so much of it was just third-person shooting through linear hallways and such. That's not to say I didn't enjoy combat in that game, because I did, but I just wish there was more actual platforming. Rift Apart, however, fixes this issue and then some. First of all, Ratchet, as well as Rivet technically, both have a few new maneuvers they can perform. First off, you have this new Phantom Dash move, which allows you to boost forward like the dash in Eternal, for example. This actually makes the game feel a lot more fresh, since not only can you use it for platforming, but you can use it to dodge projectiles from enemies in combat. A brand new sort of mechanic introduced in Rift Apart are these rift tethers, which by aiming at them and pressing L1, you can instantly teleport to wherever said rift tether may happen to be. These things can be really useful in combat scenarios where you're overwhelmed by enemy forces and need to retreat quickly to gain the upper hand. And I especially liked it when you had to use them in these scripted scenarios I'll talk about in a sec. You also always have access to these hover boots that let you go crazy fast, sort of like the boost mechanic from Sonic. There are some parts where you get to use them and go super fast, which I really enjoyed, but what's even cooler about them is how you can use them and start accelerating whenever you want. So if you feel like speeding through a level, well, now you can. Obviously, it won't work all the time since there are some parts that require you to be a little more careful, but if, for example, you're going back and doing some side quests, these can be really useful so you don't have to spend a long time replaying the levels you already went through. One of my favorite parts of Rift Apart are the more scripted sequences where you're doing all this really tense platforming at super high speed, sort of like Uncharted. These are probably some of my highlights of the game because their set pieces are so damn cool and I enjoy the platforming. Like, one of them has you rail grinding on a literal giant-ass robot trying to kill you, and it's great. There are even more moments like in the reveal trailer where you're constantly shifting from drastically different dimensions, which are awesome. Now let's get to the part of Ratchet and Clank everyone buys the game for, shooting stuff. Combat in Rift Apart is awesome. It's so much fun to just turn your brain off and plow through all these robots and monsters. What I love so much about it is how fast-paced it is. You're always jumping around and dodging and shooting stuff. It's so fun and there's never a dull moment. But the best part of combat, as well as the entire game, is the weapon variety. Ratchet and Clank is a series known for having a large variety of unique weapons that are all super fun to use, and I'm glad to inform you that the weapon variety here in this game is awesome. So here's a quick rundown of all my favorite weapons in the game. There's the blast pistol, which is your starting weapon. It doesn't do a lot of damage, but it's great for sitting back and holding down the trigger and chipping away at enemies' health bars. There's the lightning rod, a slightly more powerful blast pistol, but this time it's electric. Projectiles can stun enemies after shooting it a bunch, which allows you to score more hits on them. There's the shatter blast, which functions very similar to the fusion grenade from Ratchet and Clank 2016. Pretty much a long-range grenade that can deal a ton of damage, which I love. There's the ricochet, which does just as the name implies. After shooting an enemy, you can spam the trigger more for the bullet to ricochet off the enemy multiple times for extra damage. The Negatron Collider, which can shoot a powerful beam that can go through multiple enemies, making it useful for scoring hits on multiple enemies at a time. The Enforcer, which can shoot out 2 widespread shots at once, knocking enemies back, being pretty good for crowd control. And there's also the Pixelizer you get from the digital pre-order, or in my case, the physical launch edition. It's just like it was in the 2016 game. A gray shotgun that can deal quite a large amount of damage, as well as pixelate the shit out of enemies. Also, speaking of which, what happened to my voice? Oh god, I'm turning into pixels. Help me! Help! Right off the bat, the game gives you a ton of weapons to purchase from Ms. Zircon. And I was just scratching the surface in terms of how many weapons there are, but I don't want this video to go on for too long. And the best part is that they all feel super balanced. Like, there weren't any times at all where I thought, what's even the point of using all these weapons when this one singular one is so overpowered? Because they're all balanced really well and cater to many different play styles. Unfortunately though, the enemy variety is a bit lacking. Like, don't get me wrong, I think a massive library of weapons makes up for most of the weapons just being damage sponges that'll shoot projectiles at you and stuff, but I still think they could have tried a little harder with them. Besides the typical close range and long range enemies, the only real different ones here were the shield guys, since you either have to get behind them or wait for an opening for them to try to attack you to deal damage. Speaking of which, those enemies are a pain in the ass to kill, but I still appreciate the variety. These issues kind of leak into the mini bosses as well. Most of them are either repeated multiple times or reskinned but share almost identical movesets. Still though, I think the massive arsenal of fun weapons to use makes up for this issue. Also, most of the story related bosses that I won't show for obvious reasons do break from being the same as the rest. The Clank Puzzles return in this game, and in in my opinion, I think these are way better than the ones in the 2016 Ratchet. Instead of using these bridges and spring thingies, this time it's about guiding these mini Clanks running in a straight line to the goal by using these balls to manipulate the environment. That can do things such as increase their speed, lift them up in the air, weigh down certain objects, or let them zip past these electric wires. In a way, these sort of remind me of Mario vs. Donkey Kong, how you have to guide a bunch of little guys to a goal by manipulating their path, and I really like them. Some actually made me think outside the box, and I never thought to myself that one solution felt dumb or impossible to think of on your own. Insomniac does give you the option to skip them if you like, similar to what they do with the lab puzzles in Spider-Man PS4, although I never needed to do that. Ratchet and Clank Rift Apart fixes just about everything I had issues with in the 2016 reboot and then some, as well as a bunch of new features to make the gameplay feel fresh. It has a massive arsenal of cool guns that all feel great to use, really unique and fun level themes, exciting platforming sequences, in a surprisingly good story with interesting characters and truly next-gen visuals with little to no loading times at all. I am confident in saying Ratchet and Clank Rift Apart is currently the best game on PS5. I think this game is definitely worth the price of $70. It may seem a bit steep since that's a lot of money, but if you're not sure if you're gonna like it and already have a PS5, go try out Ratchet and Clank 2016, since that's available for free as a part of the PS Plus collection, and I'm pretty sure everyone nowadays is PS Plus. On top of that, this game has a fair amount of replay value, since you can play on the game's challenge mode after beating the main story, as well as a bunch of side missions and other things to collect. So yeah, I'll give this game a 9.5 out of 10. It isn't perfect like with all the issues and criticism I addressed already, but the positives heavily outweigh the negatives in my opinion. You'd be doing yourself a big disservice not buying this game.